The Honda Magna was a cruiser motorcycle made from 1982 to 1988 and 1994 to 2003 and powered by Honda's V4 engine taken from the VF-VFR. The engine technology and layout was a descendant of Honda's racing V4 machines, such as the NS750 and NR750. The introduction of this engine on the Magna and the Sabre in 1982, was a milestone in the evolution of motorcycles that would culminate to 1983 with the introduction of the Interceptor V4. The V45's performance is comparable to that of Valkyries and Honda's 1800cc V-twin cruisers. However, its mix of performance, reliability, and refinement was overshadowed by the more powerful 1098cc V65 Magna in 1983. While Honda's release of their V4 technology in the Magna was certainly a bold move, it was somewhat overshadowed by at least two problems. One was the decline of motorcycle sales after the boom in the 1970s. While Honda quality was a given and the amount of features provided in these bikes was great, they were still relatively expensive bikes at the time. An expensive, complex bike was difficult to sell in a down market. The second was the manufacturing and engineering problems encountered after the release in 1982. Though criticized for its long-distance comfort and lauded mainly for its raw acceleration, the Magna was the bike of choice for a Canadian grandmother who toured the world solo by motorcycle, without benefit of the support crew that usually accompanies riders in adventures depicted in such films as Long Way Round. The Honda Magna of years 1982 to 1988 incorporated a number of unique features into a cruiser market dominated by V-twin engines. The V4 engine configuration provided a balance between torque for good acceleration and high horsepower. The 90-degree layout produced less primary vibration, and the four cylinders provided a much smoother delivery of power than a V-twin. Good engine balance, plus short stroke and large piston diameter allowed for a high readline and potential top speed. Besides the engine configuration, the bike had water cooling, a 6-speed transmission for good economy at highway speed, and common on other middleweight bikes for Honda in the early 1980s, shaft drive. While the shaft drive is very convenient with virtually no maintenance required, it also robbed some power from where it was more evidently lacking on in-town or lower speed riding. Features like twin horns, hydraulic clutch, and an engine temperature gauge add nice touches to the bike. A coil-sprung, oil bath, air preload front fork with anti-dive valving was an improvement, although the Magna did not benefit from the linkage-based single shock that was on the Sabre and Interceptor. The V65 Magna and other large displacement Hondas were assembled in the Morrisville motorcycle plant in Ohio. In 2008, Honda announced plans to close the plant, their oldest in North America, in 2009, which had been still making Goldwings and VTX cruisers. 1982 1984 VF750C V45 Magna, 1984 to 1987 VF700C Magna. The first-generation 1982 V45 Magna has a round chrome headlight and fenders. The headlight is a sealed beam type. The front disc brakes have straight grooves, dual piston calipers, and TRAC anti-dive. The speedometer reads 80 miles per hour. The readline is 10,000 RPMs. The engine is a 748cc DOHC 16-valve liquid-cooled 90-degree V4 linked to a 6-speed transmission with a hydraulically actuated wet plate clutch and shaft drive. The compression is 10.51. The 1983 V45 Magna is the same as the 1982 model with some differences. Early in the model year, the headlight was changed to a non-sealed beam unit with replaceable halogen bulb. The fuel tank and side covers are black. The front disc brake grooves are curved. The speedometer reads to 150 miles per hour. The U.S. government imposed tariff rate hikes for foreign-built motorcycles over 700 cc's in order to combat their rise in sales in North America, and to aid the domestic motorcycle manufacturers, namely Harley-Davidson. So for 1984 Honda responded by reducing the engine size for the VF750S to 698 cc's, and the Magna became the VF700C in the USA. The headlight changed from round chrome to a rectangular chrome housing. the seats were changed to a wider two-piece design in an attempt to improve rider comfort. The rear shocks also changed to eliminate the extra fluid reservoir. The wheels were different as well. Honda only made the VF700 for the late part of 1984, 1985, 1986, and 1987, then back to the VF750 after that. The first part of 1984, the Magnas were VF750. Models from 1982 to 1984 were unique in their use of a larger primary fuel tank and smaller sub-tank. The sub-tank is located almost in the position of a side cover, well below the level of the carburetor banks, and has a low fuel sensor incorporated into the body. Owing to the low seat height and cruiser styling of the bike, the main tank is relatively small. Because the bottom end of the sub-tank is so low, all bikes in this family have a fuel pump to get the fuel up into the carburetors. In practice, the fuel pump adds more complexity to a carbureted bike which otherwise doesn't need pressure-fed fuel. Beginning in 1985 models, the sub-tank was dropped in favor of a slightly larger and wider main tank. Again, because the reserve level of the tank was below the carburetor, the requisite fuel pump and series of fuel lines was kept. 1983 Euro 1986 V65, the large displacement 1098cc V65 Magna attracted attention as Honda's entry in the one-quarter-mile wars between manufacturers at the time, causing Suzuki to respond with the 1200 Magura, and going up against such competition as the Suzuki GS1150E. The V65 lay somewhere between these two in performance, posting a quarter-mile time of 11.29 seconds at 119.2 miles per hour. The 1983 V65 Magna was tested at a top speed of 224 km per hour. In a 1983 Popular Mechanics achieved a top speed of 225.49 km per hour, ranking it third of four motorcycles tested, less than 3.2 km per hour the Kawasaki GP-Z1100 and Suzuki GS1100S. In spite of this, the V65 Magna appeared from 1986 to 1989 in the Guinness Book of World Records as the fastest production motorcycle with a design speed of 278 to 283 km per hour. During this period the production motorcycle with the fastest tested speed was the 151 Euro 158 miles per hour Kawasaki GP-Z900R. 1984 Euro 1985 V30, the Honda VF500 is one of Honda's second-generation V4 motorcycle engines produced in a series of motorcycles designated with VF and VFR initials. From 1984 to 1986, Honda produced the 498cc V4 DOHC VF500 for the VF500C Magna V30 and its sister bike, the VF500F. This engine is an evolution of Honda's original domestic market 400cc engine, originally deemed too small and underpowered for certain markets, notably the United States and Europe. Focusing on adding power and versatility to its motorcycle offerings, Honda bought the original 400cc motor and improved its power and performance. The engine is almost entirely identical to the version in the Interceptor VF500F sport bike, and while Honda sold the VF500C Magna in the United States, it advertised it as the most powerful mid-size custom in the world. This standard motorcycle was introduced as a balanced bike that was just as enjoyable yet easier to ride in town than its larger Magna siblings, with good power and a broad torque band. Thanks to its V4 design, power in the 500 engine is not peaky and ample torque can be found throughout the rev band, and the 6-speed transmission ratio was unique to this bike versus the ratio on the VF500F. The Magna had no shaft drive like its larger siblings, but a traditional chain drive. Specifications: standing start quarter-mile -12.9 seconds at 103 miles per hour, 0 to 60 in 3.9 seconds, 60-0 in 120.6 feet, changes by year. The Honda fuel tank logo was straight in 1984, and curved up in 1985. Facts from Cycle magazine, July 1984. 1987 A Euro 1988 Super Magna. Various mechanical and cosmetic changes were introduced over the years, but the basic core of the Magna remained the same. The second-generation Magna of 87-88 was dubbed the Super Magna by aficionados of the bike, though it was not an official Honda name. In 1987, the 700cc's engine produced 80 bhp at 9,500 rpms, with torque being 46 ft/a pound force at 7,500 rpms. In 1988, the Magna grew back to its original size of 748 cc's. In countries other than the US, the Magna continued as a 750. The Magna V4 has endured through the first and second generations of the VF and VFR Interceptors, both come and gone by 1988. Like the original 750 Sabre and VF 750, this 750 Magna engine uses a 360-degree crankshaft and chain-driven double overhead camshafts. Thus, the VF 750C unit is technologically quite different from Honda Euro unregistered trademark S last V4 sport bike engine, the VFR 750 Interceptor, which had gear-driven overhead cams and a 180-degree crankshaft. The Super's cams are also line-bored, which greatly reduced the premature cam wear that plagued the earlier models, together with changed oil ducts. The 1987 V45 Magna was available in either Candy Wave Blue or Candy Bourbon Red. For 1987, the fake airbox covers were wrinkle black with the Magna emblem. The fake airbox emblem changes to V45 for the 1988 model. The 1987 Super Magna had a silver, grey and black Honda wing tank decal, while the 1988 model had a silver Magna tank decal. The exhaust system was now an upswept 4x4 set of pipes, truly unique in the cruiser world. Although the exhaust pipes were a beautiful sight, they were not friendly to the use of saddlebags as they were too high. The rear wheel was a solid aluminum disc. The chin fairing was unfinished black plastic for the 87, and color matched for the 88. The second generation was also the first to have the lower seat height of a mere 27.8 inches, more than 4 inches lower than its predecessor. A total of 16,000 units were built for the 1987 model year, while only 3,500 were built for 1988. 1994 A Euro 2003 V45, the Magna 750 was launched in 1993 as an early release 1994 model. Honda sought to capture the market for powerful cruisers by lifting the engine from the VFR 750 and slotting it in a cruiser chassis. The engine itself was beautified by the addition of chrome and some extra fins, and by the chromed 4x4 exhaust. The seat was kept very low, at 28 inches, with the passenger seat being detachable. The all-new frame was complemented by 41mm forks, dual shocks, and a single disc on the front. A drum brake was used on the rear. A few internal changes were made to the VFR engine for use in the Magna, including a different crankshaft, a 5-speed transmission and chain-driven cams. Smaller carbs were also utilized. The changes resulted in a stronger mid-range pull, and a very broad band of power. The design of the third-generation Magna remained relatively unchanged over its lifetime. The tank decal was changed in 1995, and a miniature fairing was available on 1995 and 1996 deluxe models. 2004 saw the demise of the Magna, along with other Honda stablemates such as the V-twin Shadow ACE and Shadow Spirit, as well as the 6-cylinder Valkyrie. 1994 A Euro 2003 V25. Notes. References. External links, Honda Motorcycles at DMOZ, Honda Motorcycle Organizations at DMOZ.